Alright, we're gonna get this show on the road in 5, 4, 3, 1, off blast. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. I'm your host, Leafy Potato, and welcome to another NRTS 1v1 cast. This game is going to be played between yours truly and a newbie to ranked 1v1 play, Mary, as I shall call him. TM_Mary for those of you who need to know. This game, played on Hidden Valley. I'll let Mary have the map pick because honestly, I really don't care. I need more experience on different maps, but Hidden Valley will be the map. I spawn as green, he spawns as purple. Heck of a game. I start off stock standard. We're going with no up CC. We're going to go with early militia. At least 3 of them is recommended before you start doing anything too crazy, and I might be doing some things too crazy. I will queue a 4th. My militia are a bit late to get to the middle, but I will go ahead and at least send them forward. Might as well. Take space if I'm allowed to. Mary gets some decent shots off on my militia, but it's not a huge deal. I have mine pretty well spaced. At this point, I'm just looking to retreat a little bit. I am going to go for a vehicle depot. I go for 6 farm depot jeep with 4 militia. I don't know if aggressive is the right word to describe it, but for sure it is a bit risky. You do get a 4 militia jeep out on the map at a pretty early time. And then, of course, I'm going to be making militia as well so that I don't just die to a push. You get a 4 militia jeep on the map pretty early, but you do sacrifice a decent bit of eco as opposed to a 7 farm jeep or just a 3 militia depot in general. Usually you get an extra farm when you sack that extra militia. You'll also notice that I'm going to be stuck for a little bit of time here, unable to make a house. Skirmishing around with the jeep, trying to find some opening here where Mary doesn't have his militia in position, then I can just scoot right on by and take all his farms. I send 2 of my militia to go and harass his farms. He's out of position. He moves to deal with it, and I get a 4 militia jeep into his backline. And suddenly, I can go from having 2 militia in his backline to 6 militia in his backline, just like that. I kill 1 militia, I kill 2, he's not having a good time. He's got a house, but it's not going to matter that much. He's got the first house, and so he does have a militia advantage for sure. I've got 7 militia now in his backline, he's having to deal with that. He's already lost 2 militia, he's about to lose 3, 4. And so, yeah, that early house didn't end up mattering all that much. Jeep does go down, as does an extra militia, but he's lost a lot more than I have. He's going to poke at my farm, which is correct. I've been poking at his. But, I mean, at this point now, the only forces he really has to his name are in my base, and sure, he's going to be making some militia back home, but I've got another jeep rallying across the map. I can exfiltrate with all of my forces, if I so choose. And I will just load up into the jeep while I'm still making militia at home. Got my first house made, I've been making militia, about to have to make a second house, and I'll just be running circles around him. That's generally the idea. You're not looking to take a straight fight, you're just looking to isolate 1 or 2 militia if you can get militia, definitely farms if you can get farms, and basically shoot at them for free. That's the whole deal. If you can shoot at them for free, you're doing well. I take a little bit of a bad fight here to start things off. I have a low HP jeep that I managed to get some value out of as I get some militia on top of him for free, and I get a nice flank here. I'm going to destroy that entire formation of militia that Mary had in my base. I will lose a decent bit of my own, but keeping him on low militia counts right here kind of negates his advantage of just going with raw militia spam in the early game, whereas I still have a jeep and can run around him. The less militia are on the map, the easier it is for me to get my jeeps in position and get really good farm damage done. So we see skirmishing around with jeeps, skirmishing around with militia. At some point I'll want to get probably a light tank, though it probably also doesn't hurt to get some recons. Light tanks, just for their ability to one-shot enemy militia, allow you to hold ground a lot better against their militia pushes, so when I go to harass them and they go to poke back at me directly, I stop them poking back at me directly by shooting them in the face with a tank. Sound logic. Problem is, right now my eco is really low. You see I'm making farms, and these 2 farms that I'm making here are going to dramatically increase my eco from 92, or rather from 94 to 110, and then I'm going to be making a house on the back of this. So Mary's eco isn't that bad. He's got a lot of houses right now. I'm taking a skirmish here. This is actually really good for me. He takes a fight with less militia, and I've got jeeps in tow, so I can confirm kills on his entire force, basically. Yeah, and already, I mean, he's down back to 4 militia. He's got so many houses, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I am very comfortable in this game right here. I've still got jeeps with HP on them. I'm going to take my jeeps, run my militia away. He's got a recon out on the map, so that's kind of sucky. Probably would be able to save that militia that died right there if I just kept my whole guys together, but I noticed that I had low HP jeeps and didn't want to do any more fighting with them because losing a jeep full of 4 militia sucks. At this point in the game, at most points in the game, honestly. Okay, so he's making recons now. I am kind of terrified of that. If he decides to do a general push here, I'm kind of hurting. I decided to just fall back, make a tower in the central position, say, okay, we're just going to play this long game. He's going to force me to delete one of my farms, just delete the farm, get the $4 immediately, and I'm going to establish a tower in this position that I can then slowly advance forward with. At some point, I'm going to need to be making tanks, though. Instead, what I believe I'll do in this game is, you'll see, after a minute I'll sell this, go back, make an air pad, mostly just allow me to transition out of something that gets hard countered by light tanks, right? So militia, not really great. Now militia jeep, you can run around their tanks, no problem, but then you need a lot of jeeps, and then it doesn't scale well into the late game. Because then you start losing to mass choppers. If I just get choppers now, then I don't have to deal with that. Take some shots from enemy recons, not great, but my position is dominating. You can see right now I'm just taking farms around the map, and despite the fact that Mary's got recons, he really can't stop me. I mean, sure, he can run the recons around the map and start hitting my farms, and that would be the best case scenario for him, but then I just push my militia forward, since I still have a decent militia advantage. And then he's forced to deal with them in some capacity, especially now that I've got a chopper out on the map. It's going to be a little bit harder for him. He does make an anti-air preemptively when he sees the air pad. Thing about anti-air, though, they're not going to prevent me from being able to get farm damage done. Well, 1, because they're slower than choppers, and 2, because I still have jeeps and militia. So if he decides that he wants to stop my ability to pressure his farms by making anti-air, then I just lean back into my militia jeep, and then I'm faster than his recons, faster than his anti-air, and his anti-air can't shoot at me. Great, awesome, groovy, grand, other G words that mean cool. Okay, so at this point, Mary tries to poke at some of my holdings at orange. At this point, it's a bit late. The best shot he's got right now, if he pokes at my stuff over near blue, I pretty much have to give that up. I move my worker forward to take a little bit more farms. I establish good control over the red base now that I've sort of got orange choked off. Mary could try to get through here if you really wanted to, but it's probably not going to work out for him. Okay, 4th chopper is being queued. Once you get to the 4 chopper mark, life gets really good for you because suddenly, with 1 volley, you can kill a militia, and so you can start running around the flanks of an enemy formation that's been largely militia since the beginning of the game, and just thin away at their militia. Force them to only use their tier 1 units, and especially if they don't have a hospital out yet, that can be pretty crippling. Okay, so choppers around the map. I get another vehicle depot. I want light tanks because we've got mass recons right now, and that can be problematic for pure chopper militia. Choppers fight well against recons, but they don't fight cost efficiently, and militia, while they do fight cost efficiently against recons, at a lower scale, at higher scale, not so much. Okay, I sort of get bailed out here by Mary pulling back. Honestly, if he decided that he wanted to chase my militia with his recons there, he probably could have gotten good damage done, but yeah, overall, I think it's okay. He's hitting my farms now over near blue with his recons, but at this point, I've got more choppers in the sky than he has recons harassing me. He's only got 2 recons. He picks off, I think that was 2 farms and a worker, was it? I can't even recall. 2 farms and a worker, but we'll lose 2 recons, and I have all of my choppers still in the sky. Not terrible for me at this point. I'm not worried about making more militia because he's got vehicle tech. I'm going to make a hospital. I'm going to lean into tier 1 units now, and so I'm going to use light tanks and choppers as my main damage dealers going forward. And I'll be slowly transitioning to upgraded vehicles as a general rule of thumb. Okay, cool. Now that I've got a hospital, I've got the strongest eco building on the planet. I've got some units that can make decent use of it. And on the back line here, Mary does have an upgraded vehicle depot, and I only notice it in a couple seconds when I see a heavy tank, and I'm like, when the heck did that come out? Okay, my militia are still healing up a little bit. I will lose a farm. I move my choppers forward. I'm trying to get decent damage done on this heavy tank here, and you'll notice it's going to get really low, and I'm going to lose 2 choppers, and that sucks. That, like, omega sucks. Okay, so I've got militia, I've got 3 light tanks, Mary's going to have to pull back here, and at this point he's incentivized to sit back, make a hospital, and heal. I can't recall exactly where he ends up making that hospital, but now my chopper force has been stunted pretty dramatically. I'm just going to sell my militia, keep them at relatively high HP, get as much money as I can out of them, make a hospital, so that now I've got 2 hospitals. He'll be making 1 on his backline. I've kind of missed my opportunity to get a free kill on a heavy tank and also on an artillery. I decided now, okay, yeah, he's got a hospital. I'm going to need to fight his upgraded vehicles with upgraded vehicles. So I get my depot on the backline upgrading. I'm not too worried about it being exposed at this point because I do still have choppers in the sky. He hasn't, Mary that is, hasn't expressed much interest in transitioning over to air tech just yet. And so I've got air dominance for the time being. I've got higher eco, I've got an air pad. He's making upgraded vehicles, but so long as he keeps making upgraded vehicles and I keep making choppers, he's going to have to invest in anti-air. Okay, I've got an extra chopper building, going to send my stuff over to kill Red's base just to free up some more farms. And that's going to be pretty good for me. I have a worker building. I believe I can't remember if I ended up losing a chopper to Red's base. Oh well. You can tell me in the comments if I suck, if I lost a chopper there. I've got a couple medics out now, but the 2 hospitals are overwhelmingly more important than anything else. The 2 hospitals in the center of the map as well will help me to just fight him straight up. And sure, he's got a chopper right now, but that chopper's not going to deal pretty much any damage to my light tanks. Each of my light tanks having 150 HP, the chopper's only going to do 11 damage a shot. It's going to take him forever and a day to whittle down my light tank formation without the assistance of very heavy splash from heavy tanks. Okay, at this point, I've got my own heavy tank out on the map now. I'm feeling pretty good. Light tanks can work in assistance with heavy tanks in like the early stages, the transition period to late game, but you'll notice once you start getting like mass heavy tanks on the field, light tanks end up just being splash magnets, and that can be difficult for you. Their single target damage is good, but you already have choppers as your form of single target damage. We see me and Mary skirmishing over a couple of farms here. He's skirmishing 4 choppers versus 5, and honestly, I don't quite understand the logic behind that. He'll have an extra chopper rallying out on the field soon, but I can get up over the mountains, get back to my hospitals and my medics. I will say a point that I could be improving here is I could be making more medics. I could be making more housing for sure. Or just spending my money upgrading farms whenever I notice that I'm floating some dollars and I'm not actively trying to produce. Okay, got more units making static defenses over towards Blue's base right now. Mary is going to poke at them with his choppers. I lose a worker. Again, worker losses aren't that important at the like 20-minute mark. You lose a worker in the early game, it's devastating because you have to spend $30 on something that isn't militia or houses. But at this point in the game, it's like, okay, whatever. My command center's not doing anything else. Might as well make workers. And so I've got some static defense over around Blue, wrapping around Mary's defenses here. Now, I still have a pretty identifiably difficult to work around choke here. I do get a decent splash, get some recon, get some medics, taking decent-ish early late game fights. And early late game, I understand, is a bit of an oxymoron, but I think the idea is clear. You have late game units, but you don't have many of them. You're not working at max yet. You're working on getting to max, and so taking the skirmishes earlier is sort of you're trying to stall your opponent from getting to max while you yourself get to max. Okay, we've got choppers getting good damage on enemy tanks, but I end up losing. I don't know how many light tanks that was. I think it was just light tanks, though. And I get an enemy heavy tank, so I'm not that upset about it. I'm still moving forward with static defense. After having reviewed this game quite a bit, I think and we see a decent Air Force fight. I don't lose anything. Mary loses a chopper. It's not the end of the world for Mary, for sure, but he's already sort of bottled up, and losing choppers at this point sucks, because every chopper you lose is 20 seconds. That has to be on an air pad. And that's an extra chopper you aren't adding to your army when that next one gets produced. It's a replacement, not an addition. Okay, I'm pushing forward generally here. We see Mary trying to poke forward, getting some decent damage done. He places a generator, and I very nearly get a kill on his heavy tank. I decide to just pull back, though. Okay, somehow in that fighting, I lost a heavy tank. Not great. Not great at all. And now he's got artillery on me. I've got a 2 artillery, but I'm moving them around the flank here. I will say, I think this is one of my mistakes. is keeping my artillery away from my army. Artillery works best in conjunction with your army. Not only does it give you something that you can use to poke at generators from further away, potentially getting some free hits on enemies, but without your army nearby, your artillery can be very frail, right? They only have 100 HP, they're going to die pretty quickly. You see that my choppers are getting separated from my tanks, and Mary just goes for an all-out advance here. I do have 2 heavy tanks right now, but I still have 3 light tanks, and they're just splash magnets. Yeah, not great. 3rd heavy tank will join the fray, and so I'm starting to get to the point where I have an actual late-game force together. Mary has a chopper force that can contest me now because I've been going so heavily into vehicles, and I haven't finished my housing at this point. I do still have a lot more farms than he does, but the housing is definitely a problem. I've reached a point where I'm getting housed, and therefore cannot expand my army. Get another chopper pick here. Honestly, I think at this point it's luck. It's not even skill. Choppers are extremely difficult to micro well, and to be able to micro them well consistently over and over again is basically just not going to happen. Okay, artillery started getting shelled for basically free. I think at this point I just need to pull my artillery back behind static defense lines, and I noticed about this point that the static defense I've got in the middle of the map is horribly inadequate. Generator spam manages to keep Mary away from destroying all of my towers, which, thank God, I noticed that my static defense is weak, and I start making more of it. He's going to creep forward with his static defense. He's got as many tanks as I do. He's probably got more medics, but I'm in range of my own hospitals. These artillery poking forward was a mistake, and I'm fighting his choppers with fewer at this point. I do have choppers rallying around towards Orange's side of the map. I think that was unintentional. I don't recall the logic behind that. I do remember at some point in the game, I'm like, okay, if I have choppers rallying towards Orange's base, then it's easier to get a flank on Mary, because he's focused on this front. He's not focusing on the units I've got rallying to his rear. Okay, he's going to poke at some of the towers that are connecting my defenses at blue-yellow to the middle here. I need to push my artillery back. I'm trying to get us around here so that he's stuck away from his static defense, but I push a little far forward and I take a lot of damage in the process. His choppers are going to have a field day if they ever get on top of my stuff. And yeah, I have a heavy tank that it wasn't being healed at all. I've got a hospital that isn't contributing anything. Right, that was an opportunity where life could have been really difficult for me had Mary poked forward. Mercifully he didn't, but we're not going to use good graces as the determining factor for what's a good play. I make a vehicle depot in the front of the map now because I'm thinking, okay, anti-air has been my bane. I have not been able to get on top of him, and he's been able to get on top of me. Here, I take a terrible fight. I move forward out of range of my static defenses, and I lose some more tanks. Mercifully, light tanks for the most part, but still, losing tanks, bad. I do have yet more heavy tanks rallying to the front. And he's got a lot of choppers. I don't have that much anti-air. That's why I have some building on the back line. At this point, still fightable, right? This game is not over for sure, but I've been taking some pretty bad losses. He's been focusing a lot on his heavy tank production, and I just lost 2 artillery there. Bad. Very bad. $320 that I have to spend on getting the capability to destroy static defense back. Also, I have 7 choppers that are not anywhere close to my main fighting force right now, and that's kind of holding me back. Now, he does have a lot of anti-air, Mary does, so it's going to be difficult for me to advance. Trying to find places to place generators. As you can see, I'm not very well familiar with generator spamming in the late game. I'm finally getting to the point where I have max housing, so yippee for me. My 4 towers keep getting destroyed over and over again, but these 4 towers are pretty important to me. They are what keep my hospitals from being a free target. And so Mary, with his more heavy tanks, is going to be doing much, much, much better than I am right now. Though I have mass choppers over at the other side of the map, Mary has a lot of anti-air around his base that he can use to defend against it. Okay, cool. I'm being able to hold with less units here simply because I have 3 hospitals that I'm using and Mary isn't using them. I've got, I think that's 12 medics that I saw. I'm trying to use generators here. I managed to get an artillery and a couple tanks, and I'm going to take pretty brutal losses here. I think that was 2, maybe 3 heavy tanks that I lost in that engagement. Mary's certainly battered for sure, but I also took pretty strong losses, and he had more tanks in the first place. So if we both lose 3 tanks, he's ahead. Right. So in trying to push forward, in trying to get damage done, I have sort of put myself behind. I'm trying to fight his anti-air right now. I lose 3 choppers for the privilege. Not great. Not great at all. Almost $200 down the drain there for temporary damage on his anti-air. For sure, not the best play. And now my front lines are looking anemic. He notices I've got 4 tanks to my name, half of which are light tanks. I don't know how they've survived for this long, but they certainly have. And so, yeah, now I'm trying to place generators for my life, but my formations are terrible. You know, the heavy tanks there weren't even fighting. I've got choppers here trying their darndest to get some damage on these ground units, and it's just not happening. And I am getting some damage. I accidentally hit return to command center, lose a chopper for the privilege. Yay! I've decided at this point that anti-air and chopper is probably the way to go if I want to damage his air force in any significant way. I lose 2 choppers trying to poke at any of his. This is the point in the game where I think, you know, this is rough. I've got tanks back on the field, but Mary also has tanks back on the field. He's ready for a push, and I'm not really ready to stop it. At this point, I'm still trying to get a very light force together with anti-air plus chopper, and I'm thinking that I'm doing decent damage here because he's having to retreat every single time. But these tanks are kind of shredding me, and he brings his anti-air forward, and then life gets difficult for me. That was a little bit more successful. I managed to pick off a chopper, but look, my tanks are already in a position where they're getting sort of out formation. I get good damage here with chopper AA, but now I've got 4 tanks, no healing support. Mary's scared of it. He pulls back, wastes some money on generators that will not get him much. And okay, this is the point where I have to understand that that was a fluke. I can't be fighting like that. I have an artillery again. I have an upgraded vehicle depot on the front lines. I'm trying to poke with my choppers, but poking with choppers at this point is not possible. He's too well defended. I need to be pulling back here, trying to heal up my units. I need to pull behind static defenses. Do not lose my army here, trying to fight a last stand. I lose some anti-air. I'm losing choppers. I'm losing my front lines, but I do at least smartly pull back and retain some units. Now, these hospitals being gone is going to be a problem because Mary's got more medics than I do, so he can stay in the field for a little bit longer. Do I realize that is going to be the biggest question. I have artillery, which can let me, in some rare circumstances, destroy some of generator spam, and I'm going to lose some tanks here to choppers because I'm just not protected. This is just sad at this point. This is sad. Losing hundreds and hundreds of dollars to enemy choppers. Now, he does take a lot of damage here. I still am fighting in range of my medics, and he is not. I lose yet another tank. Just devastating, devastating damage. Would you believe if I told you this game went on for another 10 minutes? Yeah, at least 10 minutes in-game time. You might have noticed by now, I'm playing this at StarCraft speed, yet again. His artillery and medics were a little bit too far forward there. I might have actually been able to strike at him in a way that would have killed the game. Right now, I only have 1 heavy tank to my name, and that's kind of disheartening. He's having to push me back with his choppers right now, because if I get my heavy tank in range of his medics again, then he could be in a really bad spot. But at this point, he's healed up. My artillery does manage to at least get some damage on his stuff, but I am hurting bad. At this point, I am sort of desperate for more choppers. I need to be able to fight him. He's going to destroy some of the farms I've got around red space, and so my economic advantage will be dwindling fast, but he's taking his whole army to go and hit my farms, and that gives me some breathing room here. He sort of readjusts towards red space, and I'm like, okay, this gives me an opportunity to reestablish a hospital. This is bad, for sure. This is bad, but if he's fighting into range of my houses, then that kind of fixes him in place, and that allows me, in some capacity, to get decent damage done here. In all of that skirmish that just happened, I managed to not lose a unit, so good. I don't think Mary lost a unit either, but this is the sort of fight that I have to take at this point. I need to stall him for time. I still have decent eco, and the longer that this goes on, the quicker I can, the bigger of an army I can amass. And when I have a bigger army, I have a bigger chance of actually winning any given fight. I get my choppers and my anti-air into a decent position to do good damage to Mary. I get my tanks discoordinated from my choppers. This gets bad. I'm going to start losing some choppers. I pull my tanks back. I realize how far forward they are. I've got 4 tanks back on the map now. This isn't terrible. I've got an artillery. I've got an anti-air. I've got some choppers. And despite it all, I'm doing okay. I am doing okay. Mary sort of pushed back into the middle of the map here. We'll go around to deal with some of my static defenses. gives me breathing room. I'm going to go and reestablish myself on the middle of the map here if I possibly can. I've got my anti-air with me. Maybe this is a bit premature, but I will take my workers and I will rebuild a farm. Mary has retreated. He has not felt that he's been able to do anything significant to my army here. I'm going to try to re-coordinate my stuff in such a way that I won't be losing tanks to choppers, and so that I can sort of fight him if he decides that he wants to advance. Right, trying to spam generators, I lose a tank ridiculously quickly. It's so amazing how quickly you lose units in these late games. I lose a tank, lose a chopper. He's got a lot of healing, but I've also got a decent bit of healing. Now, my hospitals are at my base. His hospitals are also at his base, so we're kind of stuck here. In order for me to out-heal him, though, I will have to make more medics. So he's in the driver's seat, for sure. In the driver's seat, for sure. I try to push his choppers back a little bit. With my anti-air will end up just all dying, and this is bad. Right, at this point, I just need to pull everything back. I'm down in tanks, I'm down in choppers, I'm down in anti-air, my medics get splashed, this is game. No medics, no healing that can move with you. Those medics are going to take me 2 minutes to replace, and I don't have 2 minutes. I have to be making everything else. Right now I've got a minute of eco on me in the wallet, and it has to go towards tanks. It has to go towards choppers, too. And so now I'm tethered to my hospitals again, and this is not good. This is really not good. He's still got a whole bunch of choppers. He's got anti-air. He's trying to bring it forward so that it can stave off my choppers, but because anti-air have decent or enough range, they can at least be behind the tanks and preventing my choppers from hitting his tanks. Right. And now the generators just come out again. He gets another tank. He gets yet another 2 tanks. And this is just, it's salt in the wounds. I feel like as soon as I get 5 tanks on the map, he kills 3. It's just how it is. Now he's got a lot of low HP tanks here, and I decide that I'm going to try to dive them just to get something done in this game. I get 2 tanks worth of damage, and I lose an Air Force. And this is rough. Right, now that I don't have any sort of choppers to defend myself with, this is going to be Mary just destroying pretty much everything that I've got. Now, I do have choppers still being made. I am fighting in range of healing, and he's not. His choppers will have to keep going back to his medics if he wants to play this game. I have some workers being able to take farms around the map now. He is splashing down my hospitals, but that can only continue to happen so long as he's got artillery in range of the hospitals, which he could be having right now. But if it is in range of the hospitals, then he's kind of fixed in position. And so I can have a target to shove back against. Right, I am only making 1 tank at a time right now, but I am also making some amount of choppers. I make an anti-air, so at least I'm defensively sound. I've got an artillery in range of some of his generator spots, so if he decides that he wants to try something cheeky with generators, he will be taking significant losses. My rally point for choppers does get 2 of them killed for basically free, and that's never good. Especially when you're already behind and your housing is getting shelled, and this is just really, really bad. Really, really bad. I've got stuff around 1 hospital right now. I've got an anti-air. I've got some tanks, but those tanks are too low HP to really do anything. I'm going to get an artillery picked off here in a second. The tank somehow dies first. I really don't know how that happened. Anti-air is at least getting some chopper kills here, but Mary can just produce on the back end as soon as he realizes. And yeah, just like raw generator spam. Why would he spend money on units when he can just spend money to kill all of mine? And that's basically GG. I've got no hospital now. I've got 2 low HP tanks, and that's it. At 47 minutes, this game ends. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to stay classy. If you don't, I will know. Like and subscribe if you think that maybe staying classy is cool.